After leaving a crack in the door and allowing AEW to launch a revolution for a year or two, WWE is quietly retaking control of the entire wrestling business. Through partnerships, acquisitions, and outright purchases, WWE is staging a silent coup of pro wrestling that's only going to get louder with every deal. Given how stagnant wrestling was when WWE didn't have major competition, this is not a good thing. WWE needs a threat to be at its best. That's what gave the streets the Attitude Era in the 90s. That's what gave him WWE Cinema now. But WWE has formed working relationships with various territories, and it's led to some of these smaller promotions' best business ever for now. Despite WWE's predatory nature with other promotions historically, could a kinder, gentler monopoly create a pro wrestling sandbox where everybody thrives? Probably not, but maybe. Today, we're going to talk about WWE and TKO's combat sports takeover and WWE's unlikely path to buying AEW despite the secondary company being led by a wrestling-obsessed billionaire. We'll also answer the question, can one gorilla run an NFL franchise better than the Jaguars? Yes, of course it can. Some of them niggas know sign language. Subscribe and ebook. And sign language.
I see these things that happen all the time, and like they're little things that add up, but I always bang heads with these absolute hardcore AEW fans who want like nothing to change. Like everything is fine and everything is good, and why do we need, this is a big one, why do we need video packages? It's okay for the announcer to just say something. I don't want video packages. I don't want to be hammered. This is basic common sense business.
WWE acquired AAA. Shouts to Conan and the K100 team who
follows Alfie on socials, yeah.
This after WWE announced a partnership with TNA earlier this year, and after buying Evolve. WWE is playing a real-life game of Clash of Clans, taking over one territory after another. Next up, world domination. Who knows what this means long-term for these promotions, but in the short term, it's actually, surprisingly, a good thing. TNA Rebellion in Los Angeles was a hot show that featured NXT talent. Similar to Bound for Glory, another WWE co-opted show, the building was full. In fact, TNA announced a sellout crowd in the Galen Center. This compared to just over 300 tickets sold for Rebellion last year. TNA World Champion Joe Hendry made his WrestleMania debut this year. A sold-out Allegiant Stadium of 60,000 sang his song and said his name when he appeared. There were TNA chants in Allegiant Stadium. The dementia Dave Meltzers of the world will tell you Joe got buried because he lost a fake wrestling match. But that's only because when you're on the spectrum, you struggle to see context. Like how Hendry lost to one of WWE's biggest stars ever in Randy Orton. Or how big of a star Joe Hendry was in the building. Or how so many people were texting me asking where to find the lyrics to his song. Joe Hendry also received one of the biggest pops on NXT 2 nights later. The only thing buried is Dave's head in the sand. Not that there's anything wrong with being on the spectrum, by the way. We're all on the spectrum. Dave just lives on the homeless side of the spectrum closest to the Amtrak. I don't know who needs to hear this, but why is midlife Meltzer still dyeing his hair when he's almost 70 and his skin has more wrinkles than a circus elephant's scrotum? In the midst of TNA's revival, WWE's acquisition of AAA led to an immediate WrestleMania moment for Vikingo, who rubbed shoulders with the world's greatest luchador, El Grande Americano, the Randy Orton of luchadors. Pre-WWE, Evolve was a nice little indie promotion that went defunct in 2020. After being purchased by WWE, Evolve now has a TV deal on Tubi and are being booked by Paul Heyman disciple Gabe Sapolsky. Armed with Nick Khan, the most powerful man in Hollywood, WWE is trying to get a TV deal for AAA. WWE getting financially involved with other wrestling companies is usually a bad thing, and I still don't trust it. It's giving colonizer, especially given the fact that WWE is now owned by TKO, who has the same intent to monopolize combat sports that WWE has to own wrestling. TKO just announced a partnership with Saudi Arabia's Turkey Al Sheikh to launch a boxing league. With all that Saudi money, TKO Boxing will be boxing's answer to WWE, thereby taking once powerful promoters like Eddie Hearn and turning them into Vern Gagne. To think that WWE and the TKO brand don't have plans for world domination is naive at best, especially when you look at WWE's descent upon the indies through the WWE ID program. TKO final boss The Rock recently posed in a New Japan Pro Wrestling t-shirt. What was that all about? But to be fair, Dwayne has formed a habit of starting storylines and abandoning them altogether, so who knows what the hell that means.
Didn't make yourself available, didn't show up at WrestleMania, but now I'm going to say, yeah, I would have done things differently. You talk about completely throwing Triple H under the bus. That's exactly what The Rock did. You know what you say if you're The Rock?
Get this shit off of my YouTube dynasty and shut the fuck up forever, you deranged, brain-damaged, slow adult of a Muppet. I Love Wrestling is no excuse to have a public late-life crisis because you didn't get your way at the end of a scripted wrestling show. All that love that Dave LaGreca has for wrestling doesn't feel like fandom or passion. It feels like Bill Belichick's love for that 20-something who's pulling his strings and finna take all his money. Love is no excuse to act like a child and have an unironic outburst on the radio when you're 57 and a half. WWE is like Nick Cannon, who has roughly 57 and a half kids. Shout to Nick. Like Nick, WWE has far too many people who loved it throughout their childhood to ever love them back equally, if at all. It's wild and out wrestling entertainment. I don't agree with The Rock's actions either, but I have no sympathy for anybody having a manic mania meltdown in their Pampers. Get a new pair of Depends and sit your crusty ass down. Stop normalizing dementia. It's not passion, it's pathetic. It's not quirky, it's giving mass shooter. This is the same exact type of manifesto that a gunman has before pulling up to a Burger King after having a bad day. Do you know what the narrative would be if Dave LaGreca was 3 skin tone emojis darker and losing his shit like this every month? He'd be labeled as dangerous. They'd be calling the police right now. The N-word would be in his DMs more than mine. So as your friendly neighborhood nigga, I politely request you calm your cracker ass and stop throwing red-faced temper tantrums, jumping up and down like JD when the Grand Dragon bounces him off his lap. Why does every wrestling dork named Dave have to be so damn derpy? And why does Dave LaGreca look like Dave Meltzer if they tripled the tariffs on Just for Men? Alongside David Shits His Pants, these 3 derpy Daves answer the age-old question, can 100 unarmed incels bully a Brahma bull off Twitter? Fuck no. We already know 2 of them would die of a late-life crisis and arthritis before they got to their 100th tweet. You're too old, let go, it's over. I got a new rule. Never crash out on a Bird app when you're 60. Speaking of crazy old men, Vince McMahon, the colonizer to end all colonizers, is gone. In his day, Vince was a bloodthirsty corporate werewolf with an undying appetite for the fresh juice of wrestling territories. Even when he was helping ECW, he was really just stealing their ideas before they went into witness protection faster than David Bix's tweets. But WWE, for now, is playing nice. They have their hand in just about every major wrestling promotion with a pulse, and it's working out just fine right now. That brings us to AEW. AEW is owned by billionaire Tony Khan in a bottomless trust fund, which leads many to assume that WWE could never buy the company. A, because of Tony Khan's straight cash homie, and B, because Tony loves pro wrestling too much to let it go. Having said that, WWE may have already bought AEW spiritually. WWE doesn't necessarily need to buy AEW as part of a business transaction to put them out of business, because there already seems to be an unspoken understanding between WWE and some of AEW's top stars. Jade Cargill, one of the biggest stars to ever walk through Jacksonville, man or woman, left AEW the second her contract was up. Tony Khan reportedly offered the Lucha Brothers more money to stay in AEW, and both of them did the penta walk over the offer sheet to go to WWE. When Rusev and Malachi Black were tired of doing jobs in the minor league, they forced their way out of AEW, just like the Lucha Brothers, and it worked. Same thing with Ricky Starks. Mariah May seems destined for Stamford, because if there's anything WWE desperately needs right now, it's more blondes. Did somebody say blondes? Because Cody Rhodes was an EVP who started the damn company only to be signed away by WWE. I can go on and on about the CM Punks and the Ethan Pages and the Stephanie McCurrs and the soon-to-be Britt Bakers of the world, but Nick Khan said it himself.
In terms of the other wrestling promotional company, they have a lot of talented wrestlers, and we're happy about that. When contractually, they're available to be, talked to and have conversations with, assume a number of them will come over. And nothing but respect for the father who
that was way too nice.
Finances it and owns the Jaguars and all those other things.
The A in AEW stands for audition. Look how big of a star Stephanie McCurr is after just one match against Mercedes in AEW. AEW is a tryout territory with a national TV deal, filmed by former WWE producers. WWE's top brass admittedly watches AEW with a keen eye. In fact, WWE siphoning talent from AEW is the worst kept secret in all of pro wrestling. WWE books former AEW talent better than anybody in the business right now. They're signaling to potential free agents that if you come to WWE, you won't be benched, you won't be buried, you won't get lost in the shuffle, you will become a bigger star on a bigger stage. WWE may have already bought AEW without them even knowing. Who needs a contract and DocuSign? If you're gainfully employed in All Elite Wrestling, you're either an aging wrestler on an All Elite pension plan, get it how you live, or a talent on the way up showcasing for the big leagues. It's no different from NXT. In fact, the only difference between AEW and NXT is Africa NXT has more viewers. In AEW, you're either trying to get paid by a plutocrat or plucked by Paul. WWE doesn't need to buy AEW to win a wrestling war. They basically stole their soul for free. Imagine all the money Tony Khan is gonna lose by not selling AEW when they go ice cold, all while overpaying for established stars. Even when Tony Khan's not fumbling talent to the competition, AEW is doing damage to itself with its inside baseball brand of booking that's so bad even Dave Meltzer has to admit they're uncool.
Somebody was talking to me over this weekend, and they were at a lot of the shows at the Palms, right? And they said that the one thing when they would listen to people is just how uncool and negative everybody was on AEW.
And if anybody knows anything about being uncool, it's Dave, who when it comes to being uncool, he's Mount Rushmore Meltzer.
This isn't wrestling, guys. This is business, okay? No matter how well you treat them, if you have 500 customers over the course of 5 years, you will not have those same 500 customers anymore, okay? And if you do not replace them with new customers, you will go out of business. You will slowly trickle down and your business will die.
I watched Sinners a couple times, which is a vampire movie about how white people trick black people into voting for Trump. It's basically a garlic-flavored Get Out. Best movie of the year by far, and nothing will touch it in 2025. You're gonna have to go really gay with a lot of AIDS and subtitles to beat Sinners for the Oscar this year. Similar to Sinners, no spoilers, the Hurt Syndicate's theme song by West Side Gun conjured the spirit of a white devil vampire named MJF. Maxwell descended upon the Hurt Syndicate to suck the blood out of black culture. He swears he comes in peace. He's trying to buy these niggas off with luxury cars and snow bunnies. He just wants to help. Bullshit. The second Bobby Lashley gives MJF that thumbs up, Max will go from Sami Zayn to Jim Crow real quick. By the way, Sami Zayn?
Got off your block on socials, no.
Similar to MJF, WWE is playing nice by loaning talent and co-promoting for now, but I've been watching wrestling too long to not believe that all the biggest stars of TNA and AAA will eventually end up on WWE TV. How long till WWE's eyes turn red and they bite that total nonstop neck, thereby turning the TNAs of the world into soulless combat sports without a culture? This is exactly what AEW is doing with New Japan Pro Wrestling, by the way. For Tony Khan, original ideas are like a deadbeat dad. They only come around once in a while, and never on your birthday. That's why Tony Khan bought all his ideas from New Japan Pro Wrestling and even WWE. AEW is where the Hurt business became the Hurt Syndicate. Wow, how creative. AEW is where the boss became the CEO. Wow, how creative. Will Ospreay was a top star in New Japan? Will Ospreay's a top star in AEW? Tony Khan saw Okada and Omega have a legendary feud in New Japan like the rest of us, but instead of just being inspired by it, he bought that feud all cash and told New Japan to keep the change. Now Okada and Omega are having stare downs in AEW, and are they bothering to give you any context?
Unlike AEW, where oftentimes I miss one show, not even Dynamite, a Collision, I miss one show, and then next time I watch the show, I'm like, Trent's back? He's a heel? I even asked Dave, I said, what happened? He goes, they got involved in a match afterwards. I was like, against who? He goes, I don't remember. It was against, he's like trying to remember what happened.
Man, no wonder Tony Khan loves Dave Meltzer so much. He hates context as much as Dave does. As nervous as I am about TNA and AAA working with the Fed, I do not feel sorry for AEW in any way, shape, or form whatsoever, and neither should you. AEW is not a victim. They have billions of dollars, and they'll be just fine as long as they have a TV deal. But if that ever dries up, Shad will only let Tony Khan waste so much money before he's forced to sell the company the way the Carters cut off Dixie. In the grand scheme of things, both WWE and AEW are colonizers. They just go about it in different ways. If you're a cutting-edge promotion like GCW, who also has a working relationship with WWE, God help us, I'd suggest the DIY approach if you can afford it. Fuck them all. It's the same approach black people should take when Democrat and Republican vampires try to convince us to join their bluegrass bands. Fuck being a political puppet, vote your interests. I'm sure every political party has great points about why black people shouldn't trust the opposition, but that don't mean I gotta trust you. I'll just pull a pro wrestling bits and build a black media dynasty myself. Check out this video and subscribe. Will WWE ever buy AEW? Tell me in the comments.